Hello and welcome. My name is Ann Wasserman. We're here in my quilting studio, and we're going to do some science today in this video that I'm showing you. What I'm doing is called burn testing. It's a way to identify fiber content of fabrics, or in this case, batting. The technique is to burn little pieces of what you're trying to identify and observe how they burn, because different fibers burn in different ways. My companions on this journey today are Mary Jane and Pam. They attended my online workshop on quilt restoration and conservation, and they both brought in for discussion a Victorian crazy quilt. And both of them had the same and unusual characteristics that I've never seen before. So we're going to take a good look at them and burn some sample fabrics and see if we can figure out what the fiber is and what's going on. So here we go.
Let's start officially. Hi. So we're going to do some fiber testing. And the story behind this is that Pam was working on a crazy quilt that had some batting in it, falling apart batting and falling apart back. And so we were trying to figure out what the batting is in that quilt. Here's a piece of it. Super, super silky soft. So I thought probably a silk bat. And so we decided to do some fiber testing. I was working on a crazy quilt that had some issues too, some questions. So we did a bunch of fiber tests and discovered what that quilt's batting is. And then Mary Jane ended up with a crazy quilt too that she brought into class that a few years after Pam brought in hers. And I looked at the picture and I said, oh my goodness, that's the same kind of batting. So she sent me a sample of the batting from hers, because that back was also kind of in trouble, and she could reach in and take a sample of that. And it looks and feels just like the one in Pam's quilt. So we're going to see if it really is. I'll be ultimately shocked if it's not the same fiber. So just the intro to fiber testing. We have little samples of different kinds of fabrics and a couple battings that I know because I've purchased and know what they are. And this is just a kind of a quick run through, but you can see, because it's fun, the different ways different fibers react to the flame. And then we'll segue over to doing the actual testing. So, Pam, what do you think? Should I start with wool, cotton, polyester, silk, rayon? What would you like to see first?
Let's go with the wool.
Do the wool first. All right. So one of the things that you look for when you do fiber testing is you gradually go towards the flame and you look for how the fabric reacts to the flame, how quickly it catches or doesn't catch. You can also sometimes see the color of the smoke coming out of it. You can also get a smell. And then you pull it back out and you see how quickly or not it goes out and what the ash that's left looks like. Those are kind of the basic things. So here's our wool, here's our flame, and what happens? We had a little fire and it went out. The edge is turning black. The smoke is kind of white, but when I pull it back out of the flame, it goes out. So those things happen to be pretty diagnostic of wool. Isn't that interesting? Oh, there it's going for a bit, but kind of sputtering. And then you can let it cool off a bit, and then you can experiment with what happens with this residue. And it's very brittle. It breaks up into black powder, which you then get all over everything else. Okay. And I can smell it. People often say it smells kind of like hair, which makes sense because that's basically what it is. This is just a different piece of wool, but we don't have to do that. Mary Jane, you want to pick the next one? There's rayon, silk, polyester, and cotton.
I'd like to see polyester.
Polyester. So here's how this looks different than wool. It can really catch and flame. Whoa. That's why you do this and it melts. It curls and it melts.
I saw the drip.
Yeah, you saw a drip? Good.
Yeah.
If you can see the foil right here, is that black piece of drip. And look at this. Look at it's melted. It's strung out like polyester or something. I mean, like plastic or something. It's very hot, which is why they don't now like having polyester in bedclothes and things. It's shiny. It's a very different kind of residue. Can you see how it's shiny and it's hard? The wool stuff, I could barely touch it before it crumbled. This is hard, solid. Probably even makes a noise. Yeah. Well, you can't really hear it. Oh, there. Can you hear that? It's tinging on the saucer. And it cracks off. Wow. That's the best I've ever had of a polyester event. I can't even break it. It snaps.
You can hear it snap.
Yeah, very different. And yeah, here's our little bead. Okay, Pam's turn. Silk, rayon, cotton.
Silk. Let's go for silk.
Silk. Okay, so this is now another animal fiber. Look at that little black edge. It goes out when it leaves the fire too. Leaves this tiny little black edge, not as much ash really as the wool left. Puts itself right out. So let it cool a moment again. And the residue, similar to the wool, comes off as this black powdery, easily crumbled edge. So, Mary Jane. Rayon.
Oh, rayon. Is that what you said?
Yep. So with Pam's first quilt, when we started doing this, and what was that batting? I was thinking it might have been rayon. I'd never heard of a rayon batting, but I thought it might have been. So, and rayon is actually made from cellulose plant material, but it's also quite processed. So it's kind of in between a natural fiber and a polyester kind of fiber. It burns.
Yeah.
It really burns.
Like wood pulp. Yeah. I mean, like the wood that it is.
It's not gonna
Yeah.
It's not gonna stop unless I also blow out. Oh, I did. I blew out the candle. See those orange edges on it as it's going?
Yeah.
That's very plant-like, actually. So that's our lesson in rayon. And the last fabric that we have actually is the cotton.
What is the ash residue now? Can you touch the rayon?
It's still smoldering. It's still orange. See that?
Oh, yeah.
So no, I'm not going to touch it. Oh, and it flares up when I blow on it. Well, not flares, but it glows.
Yeah.
It's going to pretty well disappear.
Mm.
We'll see what happens. I think this is some of it here. It's black. Let's see, what does it do? It's not quite as powdery as the silk. Was it? It was powdery. I think so. And this, by the way, the point of these tweezers has gotten sticky, probably from the polyester goop, I would think. Okay, cotton. It burns slowly, but it burns and then it gets going and keeps burning. It too, oh dear, here we go again. Oh man. It too has that orange edge on it, just like, can you see it there?
Yeah.
Just like the rayon did, and glows when I blow on it, like blowing on coals in a fire, both plant materials, right?
Yeah.
So there was that. I was too busy trying to not start an actual fire. I didn't notice the color of the smoke. Two pieces of batting. One is polyester, one is cotton.
Oh, I see.
Just because we're going to start talking now about the batting in your two crazy quilts.
And the only puzzle that can occur with fabrics is if it's a fabric blend.
Yeah. And then sometimes the way I've read about it is you get some qualities of both.
Right. Mm.
You may get like a polycotton blend will have some of that orange edge that glows, but it also may have some hard black residue. You know, you get some of both depending on the amounts of the blend and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, and you can have, silk wool blends, you can have wool synthetic blends, there's all sorts of ones. So this is a polyester bat, which should react like pretty much so you would think like the polyester fabric. It's turning white on the edge. I've never done this one before. It is not burning. Can you see that it as I put it to the flame, it just kind of melts away from it?
Yeah.
Melts.
It's retracting it. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're not
But
getting
it's not making any sort of black edge.
No, it's not. It's quite it's white. It's a serious white. See that?
Mm.
Whiter than the rest, maybe because there's no air in it anymore. That's interesting.
It solidifies, but it stays white.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's let it cool off a minute and I'll see what it feels like. My fingers are all sooty from the other ones. That's interesting. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, but it is definitely hard. And stuck, sticky.
Would you call it crunchy?
No, it's solid. Yeah. It's solid. I can't crunch it. What you heard was the pulling, some pieces of it pulling off, but the pieces themselves are quite hard. So it was still melting. It just melted to the white.
Mm.
And then we have cotton batting, which looks pretty much like what the cotton fabric does, right? So that makes sense. And it glows and doesn't want to blow out.
I was going to say it's keeping burning, isn't it?
Quite.
Whoa.
There we go. It's mostly burned out, but it's still smoldering, which is exactly what you would expect a cotton thing to do. Like it's almost like paper-like here at the edge. want to see it flutter away. Okay. So then when we were trying to actually find out what was going on with Pam's quilt batting, I'm going to do just a tiny piece of it so you can have a lot of it left after we're done. This is a piece of just kind of loose kapok. It's not really made into a sheet like the batting. It's just loose kapok fibers.
Oh, this was the sample I sent you of something, or is that a sample of the batting? Is that from the batting?
No, this is the sample you had gotten from the company that
From a mattress company, yes.
mattress company. Okay.
Okay, of K-pop, yeah.
Yeah. So I will have my water handy. And here goes kapok. I mean, it's gone just that fast. Is that incredible? There's
And it caught as soon as
Yes.
you approach the flame, yeah.
virtually nothing left. That's all that there is in the tweezers now.
And that might be in a mattress?
Isn't
Whoa.
that weird? Well, I'm remembering from being a kid that there was kapok in sleeping bags.
Yes, I had a K-pop filled pillow in my slumber bag. Yes.
Yeah, the with a flannel edge to it, or the flannel fabric that was holding the kapok filler. I thought it was such a fun word. I do remember it. But why?
Now that piece is from the quilt batting.
This is
The
from
mystery.
from the quilt that Pam was rebuilding really, because both the batting and the backing were in really bad shape. I was having not heard about kapok, and when I first looked into this, I was sure it was silk.
Yeah, we could discount wool and cotton because it didn't have any of those characteristics just
Right.
physically, and we didn't do a burn test at that point. We just,
Yeah, that's true. We didn't.
yeah.
And
And I took it up to Winter Museum and asked them, and they were vague and they had no idea what I was talking about, and they had no way, they didn't identify it.
right. So, ready? Take a deep breath.
Here we go.
Here goes Pam's batting.
Whoa.
Same response, right? I mean, it couldn't be more unlike silk, right? So remember, the silk was the one that would just kind of burn a little bit and put itself right out once it left the flame.
Yeah, both silk and wool are self-extinguishing, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they do use that word. So here we go, Mary Jane.
Okay. Because I thought it perhaps was silk or wool.
Yeah. I mean, who's ever heard of kapok in a quilt bat? Or any batting? I mean, yeah. Okay.
And I didn't have a date on that quilt either.
Yeah, well, it is Victorian pretty clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not, it's kind of the traditional silks and velvets and embroidery and stuff like that. I'll add some photos to the
And I believe my quilt had a date stitched onto it of 1884.
1884, right. But that too was really typical look for a Victorian crazy quilt.
Yes.
So, ready? Guess what you got, Mary Jane?
Whoa, it's gone.
Yeah. You thought you had batting, but no. Oh, that's fun. It's the part that was being held by the tweezers. It's still white in there. I don't know if that. Yeah, that shows. You guys see it too?
Yeah.
A little bit. It shows a little bit.
Yeah. So it's also kapok.
So in all your decades of quilt repair, you've usually seen wool or cotton. Have you ever seen a silk batting or only heard about them?
I've mostly heard about them. Yeah, but I know they're around now. I just have never bought one. And people do like using them. But
you would see wool and you would see polyester and cotton.
cotton mostly, yeah, I think. I mean, I don't usually, you have to have an open place on the quilt where you can take a sample to do this kind
Yeah.
of thing. And it hasn't ever really come up as a question. But and usually it's kind of a standard thing of, I think, of those crazy quilts tend to not have batting. They
Right.
have the
That's right.
fabric and the patching fancy fabrics, and they have a back, but they usually don't have batting. And I'm kind of starting to think now, where this is so lightweight and so thin, I wonder if there's more Victorian crazy quilts that actually have this batting inside, but nobody's ever looked because, or seen it, not looked, but nobody's ever seen it because the quilt's in good enough shape. Nobody gets to it. I don't know. But to have the two of you show up both with quilts that are, built the same way and both have the bows on the back, which is something I really haven't seen that much of. I haven't seen any. Somehow I think I saw somebody refer to it at one point somewhere, but I haven't seen them. And here you are both within the space of a couple of years coming in with the same thing. So I'm gonna try to, I might talk to a couple of the historians who know stuff. And I did a little bit of Google searching on Kapok quilt bats, nothing. And
It is a very buoyant fiber, and from what we read, it was used in life preservers
right.
During World War One. And it was used, but I guess it's out of favor. I saw where you can still buy bags of Kapok fluff. I did not see anything called batting, but
Yeah. Huh. Well, I would love it, for all three of us to go researching wherever we can. And I mean, going to Winterthur like you did to say, what is this? And they were like, kind of,
even let them have a little piece, and I never heard from them again.
yeah. It's kind of means that it's something that's either uncommon or B, just never has been looked into, or both. But we could be onto something here, ladies. we could be like, adding to the annals of quilt history.
So there we go. The adventure of Anne, Pam, and Mary Jane. Hope you had fun. We sure did. P.S. The next chapter that comes along is I brought this topic of Kapok quilt batting up at a meeting, a discussion group of the American Quilt Study Group members. Now, if you've never heard of the American Quilt Study Group, I highly recommend that you join and participate in some of the events and the information that's there. There's both live and virtual things going on. The mission of the group is to support people doing research into all sorts of topics and aspects of quilt history. And it's an amazing group, and amazing work is being done to really give information on what our ancestors were doing with their quilts. It's great. So I brought it up to people who had come to a kind of Friday night hangout, basically. And no one there had ever heard of Kapok as a batting for quilts in any era. Some of them pulled out their laptops and started looking up things. And one person did discover a reference to Kapok being used to stuff furniture in the Victorian times. So this video also pleases a request. If any of you have any information or knowledge about Kapok and its use in the quilt world, I would love to hear from you. My email address is down below this video. I would love to learn more, and I'm considering maybe doing a research project on this someday. If you're interested in burn testing, I've got another burn test adventure in my blog. There's no video with it, but in my blog, and the address for that is down below. So once again, my name is Ann Wasserman. I love quilt history, and you'll also down below find my contact information on the workshop. It usually only happens once a year, so take advantage of it when it comes. It's called Preserving Our Quilt Legacy. I also have a book of the same title, and I also have a newsletter. So there's plenty of ways to keep in touch. Thanks for coming to this, and yay quilts. Bye.